welcome back to the Young Creatives podcast. Today you have Christian and Sidney from the revision team. Thank you, Sidney, for joining us today for the podcast.
Of course. So thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Today's conversation, I think, is going to be super interesting just because I feel like you wouldn't say that you're an expert in this area, but you're really great at it to be only 25. Today we're going to be talking about the importance of networking.
Mm-hmm. You say only 25, like that's not like super old.
It's not.
Okay, yeah.
I think I'm telling myself that since I'll be 25 in a few weeks.
It makes yourself feel better. Yeah.
It makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah, at 25 you start having back pains and
that's what scares me. I keep asking everybody, like, what does it feel? Like, how does it feel? How does it feel?
It's fun.
See?
It's fun. This is probably going to be my last Young Creative podcast because I'm not young anymore.
Oh, that scares me, though, because that's going to be me in a few weeks. But
it'll be okay.
But age is a state of mind, and I feel young.
That's good.
We both look young.
Look young. Look and feel is different, though. So
that's very true.
So, yeah, this podcast is talking about the importance of networking. Mm-hmm. So I'm definitely not an expert in it, but I have improved over the course of 2 and 3 years. So fun fact, I started out, I'm still a true introvert. Mm-hmm. So as far as like people and talking to people, I am like at least a lot of people, which is surprising to a lot of people because I'm outgoing, quote unquote.
Yeah.
When I have to be anyway.
And it seems natural too when you are talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's somewhat natural. I like talking to people now anyway. But as far as networking, I started out in Monroe. So we went to Monroe in 2005. And fast forward a few years, I went to Cracker Barrel.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked there doing what was it? So you have the retail section, and then you have the section that serves food, restaurant. Right. So I was in the retail section. Mm-hmm. I was a greeter, and I had to sell people on clothes, which was fun. I was a true introvert, so, I mean, just doing that was tough.
Like uncomfortable?
Super uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable. But it allowed me to get out of my shell a lot. Mm-hmm. So I started talking to people and not just, hey, buy this stuff. It was more deep conversations because with Cracker Barrel, it's a different dynamic. So you had a lot of older people coming in. So I knew me at being like 17, 18. I didn't know anything.
Right.
So I started talking to these people and started asking them questions about just life in general. And as far as like networking, I didn't know it then, but that kind of allowed me to network and talk to pretty much anybody.
Right.
Which was good. So I want to give a huge shout out to Cracker Barrel and Miss Mia Marshall for that one because
they started the journey.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. But yeah, networking is extremely important for young people. Mm-hmm. So for you, how have you been able to just network or find the importance of it?
For me, it's kind of like I don't feel like I am as skilled in it as another 25-year-old. I think it's because like in college, I like went to school and I went to work. So I didn't like do a bunch of like clubs where I feel like you like learn those skills. I didn't really take advantage of college in that way. Mm-hmm. So now I'm coming into it where even last week when you asked me to like go down to the Chamber of Commerce, I was like, I called my mom and I was like, what am I supposed to say? And she was like, Christian, it's simple. Like you just say hi, like this, and this, and that's it. So I left there feeling like fulfilled because I was like able to do that. And that was like my first time ever networking. I mean, I guess I network all the time since I just go talk to people. That's considered networking. Yeah. But like when I think about like the term, it's just like exhausting to me. It's almost, it's terrifying even for someone that like talks as much as I do.
Yeah.
So
well, yeah, you do kind of talk a lot.
I do. I talk a lot.
Well, I think everybody here talks a lot. I try my best not to talk too much.
I talk a lot.
So we are at the Office Hub, which is a co-working space in downtown Shreveport. Right. And as far as like networking, I think this is a great place to network, specifically if you're downstairs. So you have two sections. One is downstairs where you have like the dedicated desk along with like just peer co-working spaces.
Is that where you started?
Yes. So I started downstairs in that open area and then just working. So it felt good to come into a place where you was able to work, but also talk to people. So we had people coming in and out, which allowed me to build up my skill set as far as like talking and interfacing with people, which was extremely uncomfortable still. But after years and years of practicing, I say that like it's been 10, 12, but after years of practicing, it just gets better and better. So right now I'm not great or good at networking, but I think I'm better than I was like 2 or 3 years ago.
Of course.
That's the only way to really judge yourself, I think. But just this co-working space or any co-working space is incredible because I met someone named Candace, I met Drayden, and then a few other people that allowed me to go after different opportunities and then put me in a room with different people that kind of afforded different opportunities. So.
Right. So for someone that doesn't know what a co-working space is, like what is a co-working space?
How can I summarize it? It's so it's a place where you come, you can go ahead and work. Of course, you can work from home. You can work from a coffee shop and stuff like that. But with co-working, at least in its purest form, I think it's a place where you can collaborate. You can go to different people, brainstorm on different ideas, go after different opportunities together, fill in different gaps and voids in terms of expertise and experience. So say, for instance, I don't know a lot about taxes. If we have a CPA that's practicing in the co-working space, you can go to that person and say, hey, what you think about this? Or what's the best approach for this and that? So that's what I think co-working is. And it's open, collaborative space where you see a lot of people and you just interface.
So it's like the perfect place to network or to meet. I don't know, the term networking just, it's like a great place to just interact with other people and like pick their brain.
Yes.
Okay.
So with networking, as far as networking, you always think like a business term.
Yeah. It's just serious.
It is pretty serious. But everybody does it, right? Network at different bars, different events that you go to. Hey, Chloe, from the event, stuff like that. That's networking, just getting out in public and talking to people.
Right.
It's networking from a business to business or person to person standpoint.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to have to cut this part.
No, you're fine.
How important is name recognition to grow as a young professional?
So as far as name recognition, so we talked about like personal branding and the importance of it, right? So you have Christian Payton or Chris Payton. So you have Christian Payton. What do you like to do in your spare time? What skill set do you kind of hone in on? What do people think when they see you?
Right.
How funny are you, or are you funny, or do you think you're funny?
Okay.
So all of these things, right? So even if we're not talking about business, right? And we're talking about just you as a person. When you go out with your friends, what do they think of you? What kind of words would they use to describe you as a person when they think about Christian Payton?
You're asking me.
Well, it's somewhat rhetorical. If you want to answer it, you can take a stab at it.
I probably shouldn't.
But all of those things, right? So that's your personal brand.
Okay.
And then once you mix your skill set into it, it's like, hey, this is like the icing on the cake. So you have all of these things that people know about you, that they like about you. But you're also a professional when it comes to all of these different things with like the podcast and then now video and then social media. So you have all of this experience that you're gathering, but you're still a person. So it's not just skills. It's not just expertise. It's your story as far as Sidney throwing you out there to like a chamber event, and you not knowing how to approach it, but you learn how to approach it. And then with public relations and communications, so that's you developing that skill set and that overall story in the way that you tell it. It's the way you tell it, right?
Right.
So with that, that's your personal brand. So it's not just a combination of what you do as far as like professionally. But to answer the question with name recognition, with personal branding and name recognition, I think it's pretty much the same. Where if someone knows Sidney Jackson or knows of Sidney Jackson, the more the more people that know, it allows you to build a bigger brand audience awareness to you as an individual.
Okay.
Because eventually people are going to buy from you, the individual, because they know, like, and trust you.
Right. Okay, so that makes sense. So it's like what we talk about often, like personal branding. Mm-hmm. So it's specifically to you, the person.
Yes. And you can throw pretty much anything and everything that you want in there. Because with networking or name recognition, if someone knows Sidney Jackson, as far as like the stuff that we do, or I do, stuff I do, such as video production, website design, and they know that I'm passionate about automation. And I go up to someone on a networking event, chances are I'm not saying, hey, I do video production, website design. Of course, that topic is going to come up, but it's a person-to-person first.
Right.
So it's, hey, your name, how's everything going? How are the kids? How's work going?
So being human.
Precisely.
Okay.
Because that comes first and foremost. I think as far as like skill set and expertise, it's important, but in terms of networking, you have to build a relationship with the person.
Right.
And then everything else comes after that.
I mean, that makes sense. Because nobody wants to feel like they're being sold to.
Yeah.
So that makes complete sense. So why would you say personal branding is super important, like when it comes to networking?
So with that, I think we're always selling our personal brand anyway, or selling isn't a good term. Well, it's not a bad term either. So
I think it's the way we like look at it, the way we're conditioned to think of like selling. It's just like in your face all the time.
Yeah. So with that, with your personal brand, it's like people are always building a personal brand. Okay. You're building one. I'm building one. And when we think of it like online, like where are you on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or you creating videos, content, and stuff like that, that showcases your expertise and your experience on different things. But at the same time, in a more traditional format, it's going out to chamber events and saying, hey, love what you're doing, just here to kind of support in a sense, and pushing that name recognition and being human and interfacing with different people, shaking hands and talking about anything that's not related to work, or it is related to work, but pretty much just building that connection, right? Because if I go up to someone who just hates marketing, and I introduce myself and we get to know one another, and I say I do marketing, and they're like, hate marketing.
Yeah.
I'm in their response is I'm in finance or something like that. So I love banking, and this is what I do, so on and so forth. It doesn't truly matter what the skill set is or what the career path is, because if they hate it or they so let's rewind.
Okay.
So if I'm Sidney and I have in public, I'm upbeat, laughing, giggling, nothing really matters.
Right.
Kind of attitude. Someone in a room of like 100 people may be turned off.
Right.
By that, right.
Yeah.
So chances are they won't come up to me and say, "Hey, my name is such and such." They'll probably hate me.
Right. Right.
That's the extreme version of it. But the people who do know my name or want to get to know me because of my personality, they would come up to me and then we would talk, network, right? So with that, I think it's the same if you translate that to online. So in a room, you're building your personal brand,
right.
name recognition, talking to people, and you attract people who you attract, or people who like you or
right.
know you or trust you in a sense, right? And you, what's the other word for it? Push out?
Or
repulse?
Maybe push out's better than repulse.
Can't think of the word. But yeah, you, what is that word? Christ. Yeah. Repel. That's the word.
Okay. I'm like, I wasn't going to guess that one.
Yeah. So you repel people who don't want to work with you or don't want to talk to you. So with that networking, you can translate that easily to personal branding online.
Yeah. So networking, I think, like in the traditional sense, like you think about like going to the Chamber of Commerce and like going to ribbon cuttings and like it's just like in person. And so now everything is online. So I know like we just said like personal branding ties in with networking, but specifically talking about networking, like how do you network online? Like what are some tips or tools that you would recommend?
Good question. So always look at the target audience as far as who you want to provide value to. So my personal brand, I love entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs. So everything that I do, or most of everything that I do, is geared at adding value to that specific audience.
Yeah.
So of course we sell services, but with that, it's a much bigger play at like just educating people and us soaking in this knowledge as well. So we are properly educated to educate, right? So with that, a really good tip that I use personally is LinkedIn. And as far as like networking, well, one, it's the target audience.
Yeah.
So people say it's for older people, right?
That's what I used to think.
But it's an incredible resource that you can use to engage with different people in a professional realm.
Yeah.
And also educate and soak in knowledge. So people put like educational content. They also put different tips and stuff like that. So for me, of course, we have the podcast, so we push out that kind of content.
Yeah.
But it also gives people insight into who I am as a person based on what we talk about on the podcast or what I talk about in the different videos. So we're heavy on video production. So pushing out as much video is my tip. One is because it just showcases who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Hopefully anyway, right? It showcases who you are as a person. So people who don't like it, chances are they may not follow or they'll unfollow, but people who do like it and do find a value of the content or in the content, they'll gravitate. And the goal isn't to sell someone, it's to educate people and be top of mind when they do consider to buy or do consider marketing or any kind of automation. They remember, oh, I heard this podcast or I've seen this clip from Sidney talking about automation and CRM and data and analytics and stuff like that.
So passionate about it.
Yeah, because for me, it's yeah. Super passionate about it. But they'll see that.
Yeah.
They'll see that and they want to follow the journey. And if they don't, they'll get off the ride. But the people who do stay, you know that you're adding value to them. But as far as the networking opportunity, you build a following in a community around just what you want to add. So I'm building a following in a community around entrepreneurship and sharing resources and collaboration. So with that, it's not going to provide like a return initially or immediately. And that's not the goal. The goal is to build a community of knowledge for me, and then add that back into the community. And by doing that, you're building a community, which means you're networking, talking to people, sharing experiences and hopefully resources.
Yeah, that's great, Sidney. Like that. I mean, it's a human response. Like that's a real life answer. So that's great. I'm trying
to be human.
No, yeah, most definitely. So we talked about LinkedIn. Like, would you say Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or really any other social media platforms like that they could be used for networking?
Yes. I mean, pretty much every social media platform, I think anyway, but it just depends on what and who your target audience is.
Right.
So if it is like young creatives, so for young creatives, it's going to be primarily like Instagram, and then isn't the other one Facebook?
Yes.
IG and Facebook?
Yeah.
Because we have a younger audience, and then we'll probably also get into TikTok. So as so as far as what platform you should choose, as far as like building a community, you have to go to where your tribe or your community is. I think my community is on LinkedIn. So pretty much it's trial and error. So if it's not, we would go to another platform. But I have a good hunch and backed by research that that's the community.
Yeah. So with finding the community, it's trial and research. But how does someone like figure out like what their community is? So like we do marketing, and you've been able to find a specific group to target, right? But how were you able to do that? Like, was that trial and error as well? Or like what steps does someone take in order to find a community?
Somewhat. So as far as like finding your community, sometimes it may not even be about work. So I think Michaela's community is, I forget the proper word for it, but people who went to like mental health or going through mental health things. So that's her community. And it doesn't have anything to do with like work. But with that, she can promote awareness to mental health, and then different solutions and build a community around that.
So passions.
Yeah. So it sounds what is it? Touche? No. Cliche.
Yeah.
But it really is like follow your passion, because with Entre Network, I followed that because because being like super young, I didn't have like a knowledge base and a lot of resources to look up to, or people to mentor me like right out of the gate. And there was a lot of trial and error. So with that, developing the Entre Network podcast, and hopefully it becoming something much bigger to where you have a community of people who want to mentor different people. No matter what age group you're in, if you're like 17, 15, or if you're 43 and you're just trying to learn the ins and out about entrepreneurship and different opportunities. So it's really just about finding your passion. So if you're a dentist, but you love entrepreneurship and that's the community that you want to build, go ahead and build it, because it's always person to person,
right?
Because it doesn't seem like it would benefit the other side of it. But if you build a personal brand, you are the product and a service, pretty much. So opportunities come from that, come from knowing people and building a community with people.
And then I think maybe this is the last question. They just keep coming to me. So in what ways would you say like networking has helped you that like you wouldn't have been granted like specific opportunities if you wouldn't have just like put yourself out there?
Pretty much every opportunity. Pretty much every opportunity. Because one, as far as like, so being super young, a young business owner, a young professional.
And how old were you when you started, so that people like have like a general idea?
Geez, I think I went full time with Revision Marketing Group in 2018. So I'm 25, so that's what?
23?
Around that, 22, 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
We need Michael in here for math, clearly.
Clearly. But I started like doing all of this stuff at, I want to say 16, 17.
So really young.
Yeah, so really young, but not being able to really go full time until 2018.
Yeah.
Or being forced to go full time until 2018. But with that, it's as far as how. So the question was, how has it helped me?
Yeah.
Go after different opportunities. So I mean, that's pretty much the only way. initially, right? Because people do business with people that they know, like, and trust.
Right.
And with that, you need people to vouch for you. And getting into the more political stuff, if you're going after different opportunities for, like, school board and city council and stuff like that, it's really good to have a relationship with the people who make these decisions and make these votes. So with that, just knowing people overall helps a lot. And it was tough initially. Well, and it still is, because I'm still gaining name recognition and a network in a sense. But being so young and not having a network of people to kind of rely on, or people in leadership positions where you can pretty much go after opportunities together. It's tough. But with that, older people, for me anyway, older people just kind of opened the gate in a sense. First it was knowledge, and then it was, pretty much just knowledge. And then me going after different opportunities, and them plugging me in with different connections. So it's always about relationships. And even though we're doing, like, the podcast and we're doing paid advertising and social media and stuff like that, the bulk of business is going to come from people to people.
Right.
So.
And I've heard before, like, word of mouth is, like, the best type of
marketing.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
It is. It's slow building, though.
Yeah.
It's extremely slow.
But it pays off in the end. It's the most rewarding. It will.
Yeah. No, it definitely is. It is.
Yeah. So if you could give some advice to someone that wants to start networking but isn't really sure how to, or just leaving, like, the listeners with one final piece of advice, what would it be?
Networking. So get out and get in front of many people as possible. So with networking, I think it's, I would say it's pretty much the same as personal branding, because personal branding, just online overall, it's establishing yourself.
Right.
So getting in front of people. And online social media, that's the biggest platform where you can really establish yourself. So start making videos, do a podcast, talk to people, get out there to networking events, Chamber of Commerce events, put on some events yourself, partner, collaborate with as many people as possible. And you don't have to be the star of the show. Just be connected to people, because people are incredible. Incredible.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week for the Young Creatives podcast, Sidney.
Yeah, you did an awesome job, by the way.
Thank you.
First time.
Yeah, it was. A little nervous.
No, you did great.
Thank you.
Of course.
So until next time, thank you guys for tuning in. Bye.
Bye-bye.